that is a pipeline that is busted and is flooded the neighborhood and is going all the way to the drain at the end of the street. Luckily, our house is here, which is seemingly unaffected, but the smell is unbelievable. I mean, look. Incredible. And that is oil.
Holy shit. Holy fuck. Are you fucking kidding me? Where's Alyssa at? Holy shit. Dude. That's the fucking water. Oh my god.
I am a new grandmother, fairly new. I brought my daughter and my grandson home from the hospital to live with me in Mayflower in our house. The baby was about 3 months old, close to getting to be 4 months old, and my daughter called me. I was at work and said, "Mom, I don't know what's going on. There's sirens everywhere. There's fire everywhere. It smells terrible here. I don't, you need to get home." So I left work. I drove home. She was in there frantically packing bags. She's packing her bag. She's packing the baby's bag. So we need to go. Mom, go pack your bag. We need to go. And I'm like, why? Did somebody tell us to evacuate? And she said, well, no. But they teach it in school. If you can see it, if you can smell it, you need to leave the area. And it was. As soon as I stepped out of the door, I almost threw up. It was putrid. The noxious smell of like a mixture of burning tires and asphalt. So I called the Mayflower Police Department. And the gentleman that answered the phone said, do you have oil on your land? And I said, well, no, I don't see any oil, but it smells terrible here, and we've got headaches. It's making us nauseous. Ma'am, if you do not have oil on your land, you do not need to evacuate. So I thought, well, if it's dangerous, someone will come tell us. They'll come tell us we need to leave. I went to the town hall meeting, which, thank goodness, we had them already in place to set something up. And I found out the list of chemicals that we had been breathing in. I found out all of the symptoms, which we had most of. And I was terrified. Immediately started crying, called my daughter, pack the baby, pack yourself, get out of the house as fast as you can. So they got moved out. 3 weeks, my grandson laid there 24/7, breathing in the toxic fumes. He is now he was on 2 different respirators, a suction machine, because he would cough and then choke on it. So he had to be on a monitor so my daughter could watch for him all times, suction him out. I saw a lady from Exxon out by my driveway. And I said, we're sick, we're not feeling good. Why are we not being evacuated? She said, well, this will go away in a few days. It's not going to hurt you. It's below a level of concern. Well, apparently they need to rejudge their level of concern. After 5 months, I went to my doctor. I could not talk. I had lost my voice. I could not breathe. I felt like a fish out of water. But there's no air. You weren't getting oxygen. My lungs were infected. I was put on antibiotics, and my doctor told me, you do not go back to your house. You find someone to live with, and you stay there. So, first of all, Exxon lies. So don't believe him, okay? Exxon will lie to you, right in your face, knowing I had a 3-month-old baby right there breathing it in. They lied to me.
I don't have allergies, but now I seem to have, my sinuses are bothering me. My throat's bothering me, my eyes water constantly. But they act like they don't, there's nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to live here.
Yeah.
We do. And we're not moving just because of them. It's simple. And I fish in the lake. As a rule, we put fish in our freezers, but now it's got me leery. Don't want to give it to my grandkids. I don't want to eat it. My wife doesn't want it. So what do? We have to spend more money on groceries with the prices around here and fuel to go to the store now. We can't fish. You know, it doesn't make sense to me.
That's why we moved here, so I could fish. And first few years I was out there every day. I was the lady out in the boat with her dog. And if people didn't see me and my dog out in the lake, they would call to thinking something would be wrong with us. You know, I worry about my ducks and my geese and, you know, my kingfishers and the beaver that swims by every morning, you know. I worry about all the animals. And I was telling somebody earlier, I haven't seen any of our turtles come up to lay their eggs yet. And it's time. But I haven't seen any turtles. The coughing and the sinuses and not having, my throat is burning all the time. So whether it's beer or water or tea, I have to have something to drink because my throat's just on fire all the time.
And how many people do you live with here?
It's just my husband and I.
And you said earlier a little bit about he was diagnosed with cancer in January. Mm-hmm. And so in between treatment, what is the experience like since the spill and breathing this in?
He's just been horribly, horribly sick. I mean, he cannot eat. Every time he eats, he's throwing up. It's, you know, he's lost more weight than he had already lost. It's just not easy for him. Mm. It's real hard for me to watch him not being able to eat, you know.
Happy to answer questions. Yes.
Knowing what you know now, would you have evacuated a larger area?
Okay, the question was, knowing what I know now, would I have evacuated a larger area? The answer to that is no.
Well, you've been wrong.
Okay.
Because my whole family has been sick. We're only 300 yards from that rupture site. And just because there's a fence between us and the oil did not keep us from being contaminated.
I live about 350 yards from the actual cove where all the almost 300,000 gallons pull. I have 4 children. Their ages are 10, 9, 8, and 5. My 2 youngest children have had the most severe health issues since. They have had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, joint swelling, skin rashes, severe migraines. It is ungodly. These are my children. I can't stand to see my children hurt. And a company that is responsible for it is not stepping up to help anybody in its path.
They monitored for very few toxic air components, and they monitored at a level the parts per million versus the parts per billion that we know have chronic effects, and then told everybody, well, it was non-detect. Common sense tells us so many of these situations just can't simply be true, where they say that no contamination has occurred, but yet you can go out and you can see it, you can smell it with your own eyes, you know it's there.
I can walk out in this cove as of today, put my foot in the mud, and you will watch oil globulets just rise from the soil. I went out with a friend of mine that did a sediment test, an independent sediment test. And she took a PVC pipe and we hammered it into the ground 3 feet deep. Guess what? Oil was coming out of the ground at 3 foot deep underneath the soil.
That based on our evidence in our air quality monitoring that we reviewed for weeks and months, do not feel that we should have had a wider evacuation and uprooted hundreds of residents from their homes.
How many kids were doing their stuff at my house?
Nobody was at my house. A big part of the problem here is that there was no reality check. There was no visiting with the community to get their feedback. There was no checking to see whether or not the poison control hotline was actually obtaining that information, meeting their needs, and sharing information.
Why was not that elementary school evacuated?
The elementary school, we did the air monitoring at the elementary school and found that the levels of benzene were below those that we would initiate an evacuation.
The school teachers there that were going out for recess had to tell the school administration they would not go out during recess because they were having headaches when they went out during recess. Something is wrong.
Children were going home sick almost
Mine went
every
home sick.
day. Again, the levels need to be reevaluated.
In 2010, ExxonMobil did a pig test on this Pegasus line that we're walking next to and did not release the results. After the spill in Mayflower, Arkansas, back at the end of March 2013, a representative in Arkansas requested these tests that had still not been put out. When he finally got the results back from PHMSA, or Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, it showed that the 2010 tests they did on the Pegasus, it showed over 4,000 anomalies. Most of those were weld anomalies or problems. Some of these were dent, and some of these were corrosion. And in some of the places on this Pegasus line, the pipe was corroded over 70%. That's talking about metal loss being over 70%. And they still allowed the product, the diluted tar sands bitumen, to be pumped through at the high pressure. And that is the biggest problem, is that these humongous corporations, I mean, ExxonMobil is the biggest in the world. These humongous corporations are more concerned about their bottom line than the people that live along the route. We're talking about this particular pipeline that goes from Patoka, Illinois, down to the Gulf Coast, over 1,000 miles, and it's between 60 and 66 years old, different segments, different ages. We know from research that pipelines that are built before 1970 have more corrosion issues. The steel that they were using back then is not nearly as strong, and yet we're transporting the most toxic product at the highest PSI, or the highest pressure. This gets into our waterway, and this is our water supply. You know, as people have said over and over, you can't drink oil. We're talking about losing our water. We've had concerns about that in East Texas with the drought years that we've had. But when you're talking about these corporations that are plowing ahead and transporting this when there are leaks and spills, and there are always leaks and spills, we're having major contamination of our water supply. It's a big concern.
Hopefully we can put a stop to this. We all have to stand up. We all have to work together. It's not just one person that's in this. Everybody is in this. Anybody on the route of this pipeline, we need to come together as one community and fight this company. Yes, it will put a target on our back, but if we win, we have triumphed and we have overcame one of the biggest companies in this world that hold so much power over us. And if we can do that, that is a justice